Poseidon, the god of the sea and storms. Welcome, dear listener, and welcome to the first chapter of our enchanting journey through the most famous mythologies and gods. Tonight, as you settle into the comfort of your bed and let the day's worries drift away like waves on a distant shore, we invite you to imagine yourself standing on the edge of a vast, endless ocean. The air is thick with salt, and the wind carries the whispers of ancient tales. This is the realm of Poseidon, the mighty god of the sea, earthquakes, and horses, a figure whose power and temper have shaped the myths of ancient Greece. So take a deep breath, close your eyes, and let the story of Poseidon carry you gently into the realm of dreams. The birth of a god. In the beginning, before the world knew order, there was chaos, a swirling void of darkness and turmoil. From this chaos emerged the first gods, and among them was Cronus, the titan who ruled the universe with an iron fist. But Cronus feared a prophecy that one of his children would overthrow him, so he devoured each of them at birth. His wife, Rhea, heartbroken and desperate, hid her youngest son, Zeus, and tricked Cronus into swallowing a stone instead. Zeus grew in secret, and when he came of age, he freed his siblings from Cronus's belly, sparking a war that would shake the heavens. Among those siblings was Poseidon, a god destined to rule the seas. When the Titans were defeated, the world was divided among the three brothers. Zeus took the sky, Hades the underworld, and Poseidon the vast untamed oceans. But Poseidon was not content to merely rule the waves. He was a god of immense power, his trident capable of stirring storms, splitting the earth, and commanding the creatures of the deep. His temper was as unpredictable as the sea itself, and his wrath could unleash devastation upon those who dared to cross him. But what drove this mighty god? Was it pride, jealousy, or something deeper? The power of the trident. Poseidon's trident was more than a symbol. It was a force of nature. With a single strike, he could summon tsunamis that swallowed ships whole or calm the raging waters with a gentle touch. He was the god who brought earthquakes, earning him the title Earthshaker, a name that struck fear into the hearts of mortals. But Poseidon was not just a destroyer, he was also a creator. It was he who gave the world the horse, a gift born from the waves, a creature of strength and grace that would carry humanity into battle and across vast lands. Yet for all his power, Poseidon was a god of contradictions. He was both protector and punisher, a deity who could bless sailors with safe passage or doom them to the depths. His moods were as changeable as the tides, and his heart was a mystery even to the other gods. But one thing was certain: Poseidon's influence stretched far beyond the sea. He was a god who shaped the very world, his legacy etched into the cliffs and coastlines of Greece. The battle for Athens. One of Poseidon's most famous tales is his rivalry with Athena, the goddess of wisdom. Both gods sought to claim the city of Athens as their own, and to win the favor of its people, they offered gifts. Poseidon struck the earth with his trident, and from the ground sprang a saltwater spring, a symbol of his dominion over the sea. But the water was brackish, unfit for drinking, and the people hesitated. Athena, in her wisdom, offered an olive tree, a gift of peace, sustenance, and prosperity. The people chose Athena's gift, and the city was named in her honor. Poseidon, furious at the rejection, unleashed his wrath upon the city. He sent floods and storms, but Athena's wisdom prevailed, and the city thrived under her protection. Yet Poseidon's anger was not easily quelled. He was a god who demanded respect, and his rivalry with Athena would echo through the ages. But what lay at the heart of this conflict? Was it merely pride, or was there a deeper longing for recognition, the wrath of the sea god? Poseidon's temper was legendary, and his vengeance could be swift and merciless. When the hero Odysseus blinded Poseidon's son, the Cyclops Polyphemus, the god's fury knew no bounds. He cursed Odysseus to wander the seas for 10 long years, facing monsters, storms, and trials at every turn. It was a punishment as vast as the ocean itself, a reminder that no mortal could escape the wrath of the sea god. Yet Poseidon was not without mercy. He was a god who could be appeased with offerings and prayers, and sailors often sought his favor before setting out on their voyages. Temples were built in his honor, their altars adorned with shells and coral, their priests chanting hymns to the rhythm of the waves. Poseidon was a god who commanded both fear and reverence, a force as timeless as the sea, a god of many faces. Poseidon was not just the god of the sea, he was a god of many faces. He was the father of heroes and monsters, his bloodline woven into the myths of Greece. His children included the winged horse Pegasus, the giant Orion, and the fearsome Triton, a merman who ruled the depths. Poseidon's love affairs were as tempestuous as his temper, and his unions with goddesses and mortals alike produced a legacy that spanned the heavens and the earth. But for all his power and passion, Poseidon was a god who remained tied to the sea. His palace lay deep beneath the waves, a marvel of coral and pearl, where he ruled alongside his queen, Amphitrite. It was a world of wonder, where dolphins danced and sea nymphs sang, a realm as vast and mysterious as the god himself. And so, our first journey through the myths of the gods comes to a close. But fear not, dear listener, for our adventure has only just begun. In the next chapter, we will travel to the icy halls of the north, where a goddess of love and war awaits. Until then, let the waves of Poseidon's realm carry you gently into dreams. Freya, the enchantress of the north. Close your eyes and picture a world where the wind howls through icy fjords, where the sky blazes with ribbons of green and purple light, and where the gods themselves shape the fates of mortals. This is the realm of Norse mythology, a land of wonder and wildness. Tonight, let us journey into the tale of Freya, a goddess of love, war, and magic, whose story weaves through the fabric of the north like a golden thread. As you nestle deeper into your blankets, let her voice call you into a land of dreams, where beauty and battle dance as one, the dawn of a Vanir goddess. Freya came into being among the Vanir, a tribe of gods tied to the rhythms of the earth and sea. Her father was Njord, the sea god whose gentle waves brought fish to nets and treasures to shores. Her brother, Freyr, blessed the fields with golden harvests and the skies with gentle rains. Together, they were a family of abundance, their laughter filling the halls of their home with warmth. But Freya was no ordinary daughter of the Vanir. She was born with a spark that set her apart, a blend of softness and steel, of grace and grit. Her hair shimmered like a cascade of sunlight, catching the eye of every god and mortal who gazed upon her. Her voice was a melody that could soothe a storm or stir a heart to longing. Yet there was more to Freya than met the eye. She carried the wisdom of the ages in her sea blue gaze, and a strength that rivaled the fiercest warriors. She was a goddess of duality, a bridge between the tender and the tough, and her story began with the promise of something extraordinary. Can you feel the breeze of the north calling her name? The weaver of cider. Freya's true power lay in her mastery of cider, a magic as old as the mountains and as deep as the roots of Yggdrasil, the world tree. This was no simple sorcery. It was an art of seeing and shaping, of peering into the threads of fate and tugging them just so. With cider, Freya could glimpse the future in the flicker of a flame or the ripple of a stream. She could mend a broken body with a whisper, or summon a storm with a wave of her hand. Her magic was a dance of light and shadow, a gift that made her both revered and feared. She wore a cloak of falcon feathers, soft and shimmering, that let her take to the skies. Up there, high above the frost-kissed forests, she saw the world unfold, villages nestled in valleys, warriors clashing on fields, and lovers meeting under starlight. The winds carried secrets to her, tales of what was and what might be. Some said she flew to seek knowledge, others that she sought power. But perhaps it was simpler. Perhaps she flew to feel the heartbeat of the world she loved so dearly. What do you think she saw in those endless skies? The quest for Brisingamen. No tale of Freya shines brighter than that of her necklace, Brisingamen. Forged by four dwarves deep beneath the earth, it was a marvel of gold and fire, its links glowing with a light that rivaled the sun. Each gem set within it sparkled like a captured star, and its beauty was matched only by the magic it held. For Freya, it was more than a treasure. It was a piece of her soul, a reflection of her own radiant spirit. The dwarves, cunning and crafty, knew its worth. They demanded a steep price, a night with each of them. Freya stood at a crossroads. Would she bow to their terms or walk away? She chose neither shame nor surrender. With a heart full of resolve, she claimed the necklace as her own, proving her independence and her fire. Brisingamen adorned her neck, amplifying her charm and her power, but it also drew the envy of others. Loki, the trickster, couldn't resist its allure. One night, he slipped into her hall and snatched it, fleeing to the sea's depths. Freya's wrath was a tempest. Her eyes blazed, her voice thundered. She summoned Heimdall, the sharp-eyed guardian, to hunt it down. Their clash was fierce, a battle of wit and will, until at last Brisingamen returned to her. The necklace was hers again, but its tale whispered of desire's cost. What would you risk for something so precious? The Valkyrie Queen. Freya's beauty and magic were only half her story. She was also a warrior, a queen of the battlefield. Riding a chariot pulled by two great cats, sleek and fierce, with eyes like embers, she led the Valkyries, the choosers of the slain. These warrior maidens swept over blood-soaked fields, their armor glinting, their songs rising above the clash of steel. They selected the bravest souls to join the gods, but Freya claimed half for herself, welcoming them to her hall, Sessrumnir. There, in a place of golden light and endless feasting, she honored the fallen. She walked among them, her presence both fierce and kind, her tears falling as golden drops for those she'd lost. Freya was no stranger to war's pain. She felt every blow, every sacrifice. Yet she stood tall, a goddess who could wield a sword as deftly as a spell, who could love as deeply as she fought. Can you hear the echo of her chariot rolling through the night? A light across time. Freya's story doesn't end with the myths. Her name lingers in the word Friday, a day kissed by her spirit. Her image graces ancient carvings and modern tales alike, a goddess who speaks to the heart of what it means to live fully, to love, to fight, to dream. She is a reminder that strength and softness can coexist, that beauty can wield power, and that magic can light even the darkest nights. As the northern winds fade and the lights dim, let Freya's tale wrap around you like a warm embrace. Her laughter ripples through the ages, her falcon wings brush the stars. Sleep now and dream of a goddess who holds the world in her hands, a world of frost, fire, and endless wonder. Osiris, the god of the afterlife and rebirth. In the golden age of ancient Egypt, when the Nile flowed bountifully and the land flourished under the sun's warm embrace, there ruled a god king named Osiris. His reign was marked by peace and prosperity, as he taught his people the arts of agriculture, law, and civilization. The fields were lush with grain, the markets buzzed with trade, and the temples echoed with songs of gratitude. Osiris was beloved by all, a beacon of wisdom and kindness in a world still finding its way. But not all hearts were content. Set, the god of chaos and brother to Osiris, watched from the shadows, his envy growing like a storm cloud over the desert. This is the story of Osiris, the god of the afterlife, whose journey through death and resurrection would shape the beliefs of an entire civilization, a benevolent ruler. Osiris was not just a king, he was a teacher, a guide, a symbol of the harmony between the divine and the mortal. His skin was the color of fertile earth, his eyes as deep and knowing as the night sky. He wore the Atef crown, adorned with two ostrich feathers, a symbol of his authority and his connection to the heavens. Under his rule, Egypt thrived, its people living in balance with the land and the gods. But Osiris's greatest gift was not his power, it was his compassion. He walked among his people, listening to their prayers, offering wisdom, and sharing the bounty of the earth. His heart was as vast as the Nile itself, and his love for his wife Isis was a flame that burned eternal. Yet in the heart of his brother Set, a different flame smoldered. Set was the god of the desert, of storms and disorder, and he resented the adoration Osiris received. Why should Osiris be praised while Set was feared? Why should the fertile lands flourish while the desert lay barren? Set's jealousy festered, a dark seed taken root in his soul. He began to plot, his mind twisting with schemes to seize the throne and claim the glory he believed was rightfully his. But how could he overthrow a god so beloved? The answer lay in treachery, in a plan as cunning as the serpent that slithers through the sands. The fateful feast. One night, under the guise of a grand feast, Set unveiled his treachery. He invited the gods and goddesses to a lavish banquet, their laughter and music filling the halls. The air was thick with the scent of incense and the glow of golden torches. At the height of the celebration, Set presented a magnificent chest, carved from the finest cedar and inlaid with jewels. A gift, he proclaimed, for the one who fits perfectly within it. One by one the goats tried to lie inside, but none could match its measure. Then Osiris, ever gracious, stepped forward. As he lay within the chest, Set's eyes gleamed with malice. With a swift motion, he slammed the lid shut, sealing Osiris inside. The hall fell silent, the gods frozen in shock, as Set's followers cast the chest into the Nile, its waters swallowing the god king whole. The river carried the chest away, its dark currents pulling Osiris into the depths. His body, once full of life, now lay still, his spirit drifting into the unknown. But death was not the end for Osiris. It was the beginning of a journey that would echo through the ages. A sister's love. When news of Osiris's fate reached Isis, the goddess of magic and motherhood, her grief was a tempest that shook the heavens. She tore her robes, her wails echoing across the land, her tears falling like rain upon the earth. But Isis was not one to surrender to despair. Her love for Osiris was a force as powerful as the sun, and she vowed to find him, to bring him back from the shadows. With her sister Nephthys by her side, she embarked on a heart-wrenching quest, searching the length of the Nile for any sign of the chest. Their journey was long and perilous, through deserts and along river banks, through villages and sacred groves. At last, they found the chest, entombed within the trunk of a great tamarisk tree that had grown around it. But Set's wrath was not sated. When he learned of Isis's discovery, he seized the body of Osiris and tore it into 14 pieces, scattering them across Egypt. It was an act of cruelty, a final attempt to erase his brother from existence. Yet Isis's love was unyielding. With the help of Nephthys and the jackal-headed god Anubis, she scoured the land, gathering each piece of Osiris's body, her determination a light in the darkness. The resurrection. In a hidden sanctuary, beneath the glow of the moon, Isis worked her magic. She pieced Osiris's body back together, her hands gentle, her spells weaving life into the stillness. With the power of her love and the wisdom of the gods, she breathed life back into him, if only for a fleeting moment. Osiris opened his eyes, his gaze meeting hers, and in that instant they were whole again. But Osiris could not return to the world of the living. He was destined for another realm, a place where he would rule as the god of the underworld, the judge of souls, the bringer of rebirth. Isis's act of devotion did not just restore Osiris, it transformed him. He became the symbol of resurrection, the promise that life could emerge from death, that the soul could journey beyond the grave. His story became the cornerstone of Egyptian belief, a myth that spoke to the deepest hopes and fears of the human heart. It inspired the rituals of mummification, the building of tombs, and the annual festivals that celebrated the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Osiris's legacy was etched into the very stones of Egypt, a whisper of eternity in the sands of time, a god of the afterlife. Osiris's journey did not end with his resurrection. It was merely the beginning of his role as the god of the afterlife. In the underworld, he sat upon a throne of judgment, his scales weighing the hearts of the dead against the feather of Ma'at, the goddess of truth. Those whose hearts were light with goodness were granted eternal life in the field of reeds, a paradise of peace and plenty. Those whose hearts were heavy with sin-faced oblivion, their souls devoured by the monstrous Ammit. Osiris was not just a judge, he was a guide, a protector of the dead, a symbol of the eternal cycle that binds all living things. His story became a beacon of hope for the people of Egypt, a promise that death was not the end, but a passage to something greater. It was a tale that transcended the ages, a whisper of immortality in a world of fleeting moments. And so, our journey through the myths of the gods continues. In the next chapter, we will meet a god whose strength and fury shook the heavens and the earth. Until then, let the story of Osiris linger in your dreams, a reminder that even in the darkest depths, there is light, there is hope, there is rebirth. Ares, the untamed god of war. Imagine a world where the earth trembles under the weight of marching armies, where the sky splits with the clash of bronze, and where the air hums with the tension of impending chaos. This is the realm of ancient Greece, a land of beauty and brutality, where gods and mortals danced a delicate dance of power and survival. Among these divine figures strides Ares, the god of war, a towering presence whose name alone conjures images of blood soaked fields and the unrelenting fury of battle. But who was Ares, truly? Was he merely a harbinger of destruction, or did his story hold deeper truths about the nature of conflict, courage, and the human soul? Let us journey into the heart of his myth, unraveling the tale of a god both feared and revered, whose legacy echoes through time. The birth of a warrior god. Ares came into being not through peace or serenity, but through the tempestuous union of Zeus, the king of the gods, and Hera, his fierce and formidable queen. Born amidst the crack of thunder and the sting of divine quarrels, Ares emerged as a force of nature, his infant cries a prelude to the war cries that would later define him. His body was sculpted with the strength of the mountains, his spirit ignited by the lightning of his father, and his will tempered by the iron resolve of his mother. From his earliest moments, Ares was no stranger to strife. It coursed through his veins, a divine inheritance that set him apart, even among the Olympians. Yet Ares was a god of paradox. His might was undeniable, broad shoulders that could bear the weight of 1,000 shields, hands that gripped a spear with lethal precision. But his heart was a battlefield of its own. He was the embodiment of war's savagery, the wild storm that swept through armies, leaving only ash and silence behind. At the same time, he carried a strange nobility, a protector's instinct that saw him guard the walls of cities and inspire warriors to stand firm against impossible odds. How could one god be both destroyer and defender, chaos and courage intertwined? A stormy kinship among the gods. Ares's place among the Olympians was as turbulent as the wars he governed. His siblings, born of the same divine lineage, regarded him with a mix of scorn and unease. Athena, goddess of wisdom and strategic warfare, saw him as a reckless brute, a foil to her calculated precision. Their rivalry was legendary, a clash of ideals as much as power, where Athena wove plans like a master weaver, Ares tore through them with the force of a raging bull. Hephaestus, the crippled smith god, harbored a quieter but no less bitter resentment, for Ares had dared to love Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty and Hephaestus's wife. The affair between Ares and Aphrodite was a scandal that shook the golden halls of Olympus. Their love was no gentle romance. It was a wildfire, consuming and unstoppable, born of passion and defiance. Together, they bore children who carried the marks of both war and desire. Phobos, the personification of fear, Deimos, terror incarnate, and Harmonia, a fragile thread of peace amid their chaos. What drove Ares to pursue this forbidden love? Was it rebellion against the order of the gods, or a desperate grasp for something softer in a life defined by hardness? Whatever the reason, their union became a symbol of the thin line between love and war, a reminder that even in the heart of destruction, beauty could take root. the fury of the battlefield. Ares was no distant deity, observing from the clouds. He was a warrior who plunged into the fray with unrestrained zeal. His chariot, pulled by four monstrous steeds with eyes of flame and breath of smoke, roared across the heavens, a harbinger of the carnage to come. In his hands, he wielded a spear forged in the depths of the earth, its tip gleaming with the promise of death, and a shield scarred by countless blows, each mark a testament to his relentless spirit. When Ares stepped onto the battlefield, the world shifted. Soldiers felt their hearts pound with both dread and daring, driven by the god who embodied the raw essence of conflict. One of the most enduring chapters of his legend unfolded during the Trojan War, a saga of pride, betrayal, and divine meddling. Ares aligned himself with the Trojans, his spear flashing like a comet as he fought alongside Hector and Paris. His presence was a tidal wave, sweeping through the Greek ranks with devastating force. Yet even a god of war could taste defeat. Athena, ever his nemesis, guided the mortal hero Diomedes to strike Ares with a spear, piercing his divine flesh. The god's bellow of agony rent the skies, a sound that mortal and immortal alike could not ignore. Bleeding ichor, the golden blood of the gods, Ares withdrew, his pride wounded as deeply as his body. But Ares was not one to linger in defeat. His wounds closed, his resolve hardened, and he returned to the fight with a vengeance that shook the walls of Troy. What did this moment teach him? This god who seemed invincible, yet bore the scars of failure. Perhaps it was a lesson in resilience, a reminder that even in war, strength is forged through struggle. His role in the Trojan War left an indelible mark, shaping the fates of heroes and the course of a conflict that would be sung of for millennia. A god beyond the blade. Ares was more than a bringer of bloodshed. He wore many masks, each revealing a different facet of his divinity. In the warlike city of Sparta, he was a revered figure, his name chanted by soldiers as they sharpened their spears and donned their armor. Temples rose in his honor, their altars stained with the offerings of warriors seeking his favor. Here, he was a guardian, a god who stood watch over the polis, his fierce gaze a shield against invaders. Yet in other corners of Greece, he was a specter of fear, his name whispered rather than shouted, his temples scarce and his worship subdued. The Romans, who called him Mars, saw him through a different lens. To them, he was not only a war god, but a father of their people, linked to the founding of Rome through his son Romulus. They wove him into their identity, honoring him as a deity of both battle and the plow, a duality that mirrored the cycles of life, war to protect the harvest, peace to sow the seeds. This complexity made Ares a god of contradictions, a reflection of humanity's own capacity for creation amid destruction, for love amid hate, the echoes of Ares. Ares' story is not confined to the pages of myth. It lives in the art we craft, the histories we recount, and the lessons we glean. His image adorns ancient vases, his form captured in marble, a testament to the awe he inspired. He is a reminder that war, for all its terror, is a thread in the tapestry of existence, a force that has shaped empires and tested the spirit of humankind. Yet beneath the clamor of battle, Ares whispers of something more, the courage to face the storm, the will to rise from the ashes, and the strength to endure. As the echoes of his tale fade, picture the fields of Greece, the clash of swords now silent, the fires of war reduced to embers. Ares stands there still, a shadow against the horizon, his spear planted in the earth. He is not just a god of war, he is a mirror to our own struggles, a symbol of the chaos we carry and the resilience we muster. What other stories lie hidden in the myths of the gods? What new chapters await us in the shadows of the past? For now, let the legend of Ares linger in your mind, a call to explore the depths of both history and the heart. Hades, the lord of the underworld. In the shadowy depths beneath the earth, where the sun's rays never reach, lies a realm both feared and revered, the underworld, a place of eternal twilight, where the souls of the departed find their final rest. Here, amidst the silent rivers and echoing caverns, rules Hades, the god of the dead, a figure as enigmatic as the darkness he commands. Often misunderstood, Hades is not a god of evil, but of balance, a stern yet just ruler who oversees the delicate boundary between life and death. His story is one of power, love, and the eternal cycle that binds all living things. As we journey through the myths of Hades, we will uncover the secrets of the underworld and the god who reigns over it. How did Hades come to rule this somber kingdom? And what tales lie hidden in the shadows of his realm? The rise of the underworld king. Long before the underworld became Hades' domain, the cosmos was a battleground. The Titanomachy, a war that shook the heavens, saw the Titans, led by Cronus, clash with their children, the Olympian gods, under Zeus's command. Cronus, fearing a prophecy that one of his offspring would overthrow him, had swallowed his children whole, save for Zeus, who was hidden away. When Zeus came of age, he freed his siblings, including Hades, and together they waged a brutal war against the Titans. The earth trembled, the skies roared, and after 10 years of conflict, the Olympians emerged victorious. With the Titans defeated, the three brothers, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, divided the cosmos among themselves. Zeus claimed the sky, Poseidon the sea, and Hades, by fate or fortune, was given the underworld. It was not a glamorous realm, but it was essential, a place where the souls of the dead would find their eternal fate. Hades accepted his role with quiet resolve, knowing that balance must be maintained. He became the unseen king, ruling from his throne of ebony, his presence felt but rarely seen by the living. But what kind of ruler was Hades? Was he as cold and unyielding as the realm he governed? The abduction of Persephone. Hades' story took a dramatic turn with the arrival of Persephone, the daughter of Demeter, goddess of the harvest. Persephone was a maiden of light and life, her laughter like the bloom of spring flowers. One day, as she wandered a meadow, gathering blossoms, the earth split open, and Hades emerged in his chariot, drawn by black horses with eyes of flame. He seized Persephone and carried her away to the underworld, her cries echoing as the ground closed behind them. Demeter, stricken with grief, searched the earth for her daughter, her sorrow plunging the world into a barren winter. Crops withered, rivers froze, and the people starved. Zeus, seeing the devastation, intervened, commanding Hades to release Persephone. But Hades, cunning and patient, had offered Persephone a pomegranate, and she had eaten 6 seeds, a binding act that tied her to the underworld. A compromise was struck. Persephone would spend 6 months with Hades and 6 months with her mother. Thus, the cycle of the seasons was born, spring and summer when Persephone walked the earth, autumn and winter when she returned to the underworld. But what of Hades' heart? Did he truly love Persephone, or was she merely a prize? The myths whisper of a complex bond, one forged in both longing and understanding. Hades, the solitary king, found in Persephone a light that softened the shadows of his realm. And Persephone, though taken by force, grew to see the quiet strength in her husband, a god who ruled with justice rather than cruelty. Their story is not one of simple abduction, but of balance between light and dark, life and death, love and loss, the judge of souls. Hades' role as the ruler of the underworld was not merely to guard the dead, but to judge them. In his hall, the souls of the departed stood before him, their lives weighed on the scales of truth. Those who had lived virtuously were granted passage to the Elysian fields, a place of peace and eternal joy. Those who had sinned faced punishment in the depths of Tartarus, where their torments matched their crimes. And for most, the asphodel meadows awaited, a neutral realm where ordinary souls wandered in quiet oblivion. Hades was a fair judge, his decisions unswayed by emotion or favoritism. He was not a god who reveled in suffering, but one who maintained order, ensuring that every soul received its due. His realm was a reflection of the world above, a place where justice prevailed, even in death. But what did it mean to be the god of such a place? Did Hades ever long for the light, or had he found solace in the shadows? Hades in the myths of heroes. Though Hades rarely left his kingdom, his presence loomed large in the tales of heroes. When Orpheus, the gifted musician, descended into the underworld to retrieve his beloved Eurydice, it was Hades who granted him a chance to lead her back to the living world, on the condition that he not look back. Orpheus, overcome with doubt, glanced behind him, and Eurydice was lost forever. It was a moment of heartbreak, a reminder that even the god's mercy has its limits. Another hero, Heracles, ventured into the underworld as one of his 12 labors, tasked with capturing Cerberus, the three-headed hound that guarded the gates. Hades allowed Heracles to take the beast, but only if he could do so without weapons. Heracles, with his unmatched strength, wrestled Cerberus into submission, earning Hades' respect. These stories reveal a god who, though stern, was not without reason, a ruler who could be bargained with if one had the courage to try, a god of balance and legacy. Hades' legacy is one of balance. He is the god who reminds us that death is not an end, but a passage, a necessary part of the cycle of existence. His realm is not a place of torment, but of rest, where the soul finds its place in the grand design. In a world that often fears the unknown, Hades stands as a figure of inevitability, a god who teaches us to accept the shadows as part of life's tapestry. As you drift closer to sleep, let your mind wander through the myths of Hades. Imagine the quiet halls of the underworld, the rivers that flow with forgotten dreams, and the god who watches over it all. Hades is not a god of fear, but of understanding, a whisper in the dark that says, "All things must pass, but in passing they are reborn." But the story does not end here. What new wonders will emerge from the myths of the gods? What other tales will shape the chapters yet to come? Rest now, and let the whispers of the past guide you into dreams of the future. Bastet, the guardian goddess of ancient Egypt. Imagine a land where the sun blazes golden over endless sands, where the Nile's gentle waters breathe life into the earth, and where the air hums with the whispers of gods. This is ancient Egypt, a civilization cradled by the river's embrace, its people woven into a tapestry of myth and magic. Among the divine beings who walked this sacred land, one goddess stood as a beacon of protection, joy, and the fierce love of a mother. Her name was Bastet, the cat-headed goddess, a deity as graceful as she was powerful. As we journey through her story, we will uncover the secrets of her worship, the legends that surround her, and the enduring legacy she left behind. What made Bastet so beloved, and how did her gentle purr echo through the ages? The birth of a protector. Bastet's tale begins in the ancient city of Bubastis, a place where the scent of incense mingled with the murmur of prayers. She was born of the sun god Ra, her essence a spark of his radiant light. In her earliest days, Bastet was fierce, a lioness warrior, her roar a tempest that shook the heavens. She was Sekhmet's sister, the lioness of war. But where Sekhmet brought destruction, Bastet chose a different path. Over time, she softened, her lion's mane giving way to the sleek form of a cat, her nature shifting from wrath to warmth. She became the guardian of homes, the protector of women and children, and the bringer of joy. But why the cat? In Egypt, cats were sacred, their grace and cunning revered. They guarded granaries from vermin, their presence a shield against misfortune. Bastet, in her feline form, embodied this protective spirit. She was the watchful eye in the night, the silent hunter who kept danger at bay. Her image adorned amulets and temples, her name whispered in prayers for safety and health. But Bastet was more than a guardian. She was a goddess of duality, a blend of ferocity and tenderness, a reminder that strength and softness could coexist. The festivals of joy. Bastet's worship was not a solemn affair. It was a celebration, a riot of color and sound that swept through Bubastis each year. The festival of Bastet was a spectacle like no other, drawing pilgrims from across Egypt. Imagine the scene: boats gliding down the Nile, their sails painted with the goddess's likeness, their decks filled with revelers singing her praises. As they arrived in Bubastis, the air filled with the sound of drums, flutes, and laughter. Women shook sistrums, their rhythmic clatter a call to the goddess, while dancers twirled in the streets, their movements a tribute to Bastet's grace. The festival was a time of joy, a release from the burdens of daily life. Wine flowed freely, and the scent of roasted meats mingled with the perfume of flowers. Cats, adorned with golden collars, roamed the city, their presence a living blessing. At the heart of it all stood Bastet's temple, a marvel of stone and gold, its walls carved with scenes of the goddess in her many forms. Here, priests and priestesses offered prayers and sacrifices, their voices rising in harmony with the music. But what did these rituals mean? Were they merely a celebration, or did they hold a deeper significance? The defender of Ra Bastet's role extended beyond the mortal realm. She was a defender of the gods themselves. Each night, as Ra, the sun god, journeyed through the underworld, he faced the serpent Apep, a creature of chaos that sought to devour him. Bastet, with her sharp claws and keen eyes, stood as Ra's protector, her fierce spirit a shield against the darkness. She was the watchful cat, her gaze piercing the shadows, her strength a bulwark against the forces of disorder. This myth spoke to Bastet's deeper purpose. She was not just a goddess of the home, but a guardian of the cosmic order. Her battles against Apep were a reflection of the eternal struggle between light and dark, creation and destruction. In her victory, she ensured the sun's rebirth each morning, a promise of life renewed. But what did this mean for the people who worshipped her? How did her cosmic role shape their understanding of the world, the guide to the afterlife? Bastet's influence reached into the realm of the dead, where she served as a guide and protector. In the underworld, she was a beacon of light, her gentle purr a comfort to souls navigating the shadows. She was often depicted alongside the deceased in tomb paintings, her presence a symbol of safe passage. Cats, too, were mummified and buried with their owners, their spirits believed to accompany the dead on their journey. This connection to the afterlife added a layer of mystery to Bastet's worship. She was a goddess who bridged the worlds of the living and the dead, a reminder that life and death were part of a greater cycle. Her image, carved into amulets, was worn by the living and the dead alike, a talisman against the unknown. But what did it mean to carry Bastet's protection into the afterlife? Was it a promise of rebirth or simply a comfort in the face of the inevitable? A legacy of grace and strength. Bastet's story did not end with the fall of Egypt's temples. Her legacy endured, a whisper of the past that still echoes today. Her image adorns modern jewelry, her name invoked in tales of magic and mystery. She is a symbol of protection, femininity, and the quiet strength that lies within. In a world that often forgets the gods of old, Bastet remains a reminder of the power of grace, the importance of joy, and the enduring bond between humanity and the divine. As you drift closer to sleep, let your mind wander through the myths of Bastet. Imagine the festivals in her honor, the music and laughter, the quiet purr of a cat in the night. Bastet was not just a goddess, she was a guardian, a guide, a whisper of the divine in the everyday. But the story does not end here. What new wonders will emerge from the myths of the gods? What other tales will shape the chapters yet to come? Rest now, and let the whispers of the past guide you into dreams of the future. Tyr, the god of war and justice. In the icy realms of the north, where the winds howl like wolves and the stars gleam like distant fires, the Norse gods ruled with power and purpose. Among them stood Tyr, a god whose name echoed through the halls of Asgard and the hearts of mortals. He was the god of war, yes, but also of justice, of oaths sworn and kept, of the courage to face the impossible. His story is one of bravery, sacrifice, and the unyielding strength of a single, steady hand. As we journey through the myths of Tyr, we will uncover the secrets of his legacy and the moment that defined him, a moment when the fate of the world hung in the balance. What drove this god to make the ultimate sacrifice? And how did his courage shape the destiny of the gods, a god of honor and battle? Tyr was not born of the Aesir, the ruling gods of Asgard. He was a god of the Vanir, the ancient tribe tied to the earth's fertility and the sea's bounty. Yet when the two tribes forged peace, Tyr came to Asgard, his presence a bridge between worlds. He was a warrior, his body honed by countless battles, his mind sharp as the blade of his sword. But Tyr was no mere brute. He was a god of strategy, of calculated risk, of the wisdom that tempers strength. His symbol was the spear, a weapon of precision and power, and his name was invoked by those who sought victory with honor. In the halls of Asgard, Tyr was respected, even revered. He was the god who settled disputes, who ensured that oaths were kept, who stood as a pillar of justice in a world often swayed by chaos. His voice was calm, his gaze steady, his judgment fair. But beneath his quiet exterior lay a heart that beat with the fire of battle, a spirit that thrived in the clash of steel and the roar of the fray. He was a god who understood that war was not just about conquest. It was about protecting what mattered, about standing firm when the storm came. But what would happen when the storm grew too great, even for the gods? The binding of Fenrir. The tale of Tyr is forever bound to the story of Fenrir, the monstrous wolf destined to bring doom to the gods. Fenrir was no ordinary beast. He was the son of Loki, the trickster, and his growth was swift and terrifying. As the wolf's size and strength increased, so did the gods' fear. They knew that Fenrir was fated to slay Odin, the Allfather, during Ragnarok, the end of days. Desperate to prevent this, the gods sought to bind the wolf, to chain him before he could fulfill his dark destiny. But Fenrir was cunning. He agreed to be bound only if one of the gods placed their hand in his jaws as a pledge of good faith. The gods hesitated, their courage faltering in the face of such a risk. All but one, Tyr. With a steady gaze and a heart full of resolve, Tyr stepped forward. He placed his right hand, the hand of oaths, into the wolf's maw, knowing full well the price he would pay. The gods bound Fenrir with Gleipnir, a magical chain forged by dwarves, and as the wolf struggled, realizing the trap, he bit down, severing Tyr's hand. The gods had their victory, but Tyr had made the ultimate sacrifice. What drove him to offer his hand? Was it duty, loyalty, or a deeper understanding of the cost of peace? A legacy of courage. Tyr's sacrifice was not in vain. Fenrir was bound, the prophecy delayed, and the world spared from chaos for a time. But Tyr's act was more than a moment of bravery. It was a symbol of the price of justice, of the strength to do what must be done, even when the cost is great. His lost hand became a badge of honor, a mark of his unwavering commitment to the greater good. In the myths, Tyr's name became synonymous with courage, with the quiet strength that holds the line when all else fails. As the gods prepared for Ragnarok, knowing that the final battle would come, Tyr stood ready. He would face the monstrous hound Garm, guardian of the underworld, in a duel that would shake the foundations of the world. Their clash would be fierce, their fates intertwined, but Tyr's legacy was already sealed. He was the god who had given his hand to save the world, the warrior who understood that true strength lies not in power, but in sacrifice, a god of the north. Tyr's story is a whisper in the wind, a tale carried on the breath of the north. His name lives on in the days of the week, Tuesday or Tyr's Day, a tribute to his enduring presence. He is a reminder that war is not just about glory, it is about the choices we make, the oaths we keep, and the courage to face the darkness. In a world that often glorifies the loud and the bold, Tyr stands as a symbol of quiet strength, of the power that lies in doing what is right, even when the cost is high. As you drift closer to sleep, let your mind wander through the myths of Tyr. Imagine the icy halls of Asgard, the clash of steel, and the steady gaze of a god who gave everything for the world he loved. Tyr was not just a god of war, he was a beacon of justice, a whisper of courage in the face of the storm. But the story does not end here. What new wonders will emerge from the myths of the gods? What other tales will shape the chapters yet to come? Rest now and let the whispers of the past guide you into dreams of the future. Amun, the breath of the hidden god. Imagine a land where the sun blazes golden over endless sands, where the Nile's gentle waters breathe life into the earth, and where the air hums with the whispers of gods. This is ancient Egypt, a civilization cradled by the river's embrace, its people woven into a tapestry of myth and magic. Among the divine beings who walked this sacred land, one god stood as a beacon of mystery, power, and creation. His name was Amun, the Hidden One, the King of the Gods, a deity whose influence stretched from the sunlit temples of Thebes to the shadowy depths of the underworld. As we journey through his story, we will uncover the secrets of his worship, the legends that surround him, and the enduring legacy he left behind. What made Amun so revered? And how did his whispered name echo through the ages? The birth of a hidden god. Amun's tale begins in the ancient city of Thebes, a place where the scent of incense mingled with the murmur of prayers. He was not born of the earth or the sky, but of the very essence of creation itself. In the beginning, before the world knew order, there was only the void, a swirling chaos of darkness and potential. From this void emerged the Ogdoad, 8 primordial gods who embodied the elements of existence. Among them were Amun and his consort Amunet, the hidden ones, whose names meant the invisible and the unseen. They were the breath of life, the unseen force that set the cosmos in motion. But Amun was not content to remain in the shadows. As Egypt grew, so did his power. He merged with Ra, the sun god, becoming Amun-Ra, the king of the gods, the creator of all things. His form was that of a man with a ram's head, a symbol of strength and fertility, his eyes gleaming with the light of the sun. He wore the double-plumed crown, a mark of his divine authority, and his voice was the whisper of the wind through the desert sands. But what drove this god to rise from obscurity to become the supreme deity of Egypt? Was it ambition, or was it the will of the cosmos itself? The Oracle of Siwa. Amun's influence stretched far beyond the temples of Thebes. In the distant oasis of Siwa, nestled in the western desert, stood his most famous oracle. Here, in a sanctuary surrounded by palm trees and shimmering pools, priests spoke with the voice of the god, their words carrying the weight of prophecy. It was said that Amun's wisdom could pierce the veil of time, revealing the secrets of the future to those who dared to ask. Kings and conquerors journeyed to Siwa, their hearts heavy with questions, their minds ablaze with ambition. One such seeker was Alexander the Great, the young Macedonian king who dreamed of conquering the world. In 331 BCE, he made the perilous trek across the desert, his soldiers weary, his resolve unyielding. At the oracle he stood before the priests, his eyes searching for answers. What did Amun tell him? The words were shrouded in mystery, but legend whispers that the god confirmed Alexander's divine lineage, calling him the son of Zeus Amun. It was a moment that would shape history, a whisper of destiny that echoed through the ages. But what did this revelation mean for Alexander? And how did it alter the course of his conquests? The king of the gods. Amun's power was not just spiritual, it was political. During the New Kingdom, he became the patron god of the pharaohs, his name invoked in coronations and conquests. The great temple of Karnak, a marvel of stone and gold, was built in his honor, its towering columns reaching for the heavens. Here, priests and priestesses offered prayers and sacrifices, their voices rising in harmony with the music of flutes and drums. The temple was a living testament to Amun's glory, a place where the divine and the mortal met. But Amun was more than a god of kings. He was a god of the people. His festivals were joyous affairs, filled with feasting, dancing, and the scent of blooming flowers. The Opet festival, held each year, saw Amun's statue carried from Karnak to Luxor, a procession of splendor that drew crowds from across Egypt. It was a time of renewal, a celebration of life and fertility, a reminder that even in the harshest desert, beauty could bloom. But what did these rituals mean? Were they merely a show of devotion, or did they hold a deeper significance? The legacy of the Hidden One. Amun's story did not end with the fall of Egypt's temples. His legacy endured, a whisper of the past that still echoes today. His image adorns ancient artifacts, his name invoked in tales of magic and mystery. He is a symbol of creation, kingship, and the quiet strength that lies within. In a world that often forgets the gods of old, Amun remains a reminder of the power of the unseen, the importance of wisdom, and the enduring bond between humanity and the divine. As you drift closer to sleep, let your mind wander through the myths of Amun. Imagine the festivals in his honor, the music and laughter, the quiet whisper of the wind through the desert sands. Amun was not just a god, he was a guardian, a guide, a whisper of the divine in the everyday. But the story does not end here. What new wonders will emerge from the myths of the gods? What other tales will shape the chapters yet to come? Rest now and let the whispers of the past guide you into dreams of the future. Demeter, the goddess of the harvest and the seasons. In the golden age of ancient Greece, when the earth bloomed with abundance and the heavens smiled upon the land, there walked a goddess whose touch brought life to the fields and joy to the hearts of mortals. Her name was Demeter, the goddess of the harvest, agriculture, and the sacred cycle of life. With hair like ripened wheat and eyes as green as the first spring leaves, she wandered the earth, blessing the soil with fertility and the people with plenty. But beneath her gentle exterior lay a mother's fierce love, a love that would shake the foundations of the world and give birth to the seasons we know today. This is the story of Demeter, a tale of loss, longing, and the eternal promise of renewal. How did a mother's grief shape the rhythm of the earth? And what secrets does her story hold for those who listen closely? A world of abundance. Long ago, when the gods still walked among mortals, the earth was a paradise of endless bounty. Under Demeter's watchful care, the fields yielded golden grain, the orchards overflowed with fruit, and the vineyards glistened with dew-kissed grapes. There was no winter to chill the bones, no barren months to starve the soul. The land was a reflection of Demeter's joy, for she had a daughter, Persephone, whose laughter was the melody of spring, and whose smile was the warmth of summer. Persephone was the light of Demeter's life, a maiden of unparalleled beauty and grace. Together, they roamed the meadows, weaving garlands of flowers and singing songs of the earth's bounty. Their bond was unbreakable, a thread of love that wove through the fabric of the world. But in the shadows, a different thread was being spun, a thread of desire and darkness that would soon unravel the tapestry of their happiness. The abduction of Persephone. One fateful day, as Persephone wandered a sunlit field, gathering narcissus blooms, the earth trembled beneath her feet. The ground split open, and from the chasm emerged Hades, the god of the underworld, his chariot drawn by horses as black as night. His eyes, dark and fathomless, locked onto Persephone, and with a swift, unyielding motion, he seized her, pulling her into his chariot. Her cries echoed through the meadow, but the earth closed behind them, swallowing her whole. Demeter, sensing the loss of her daughter, rushed to the field, her heart pounding with dread. She searched the earth, her voice a desperate plea, but Persephone was gone, vanished without a trace. The world fell silent, the flowers wilted, and the once vibrant fields turned gray and lifeless. Demeter's grief was a storm that swept across the land, her tears a rain that refused to cease. The earth, once bountiful, became a barren wasteland, its crops withering, its rivers drying to dust. A mother's desperate search. For 9 days and 9 nights, Demeter wandered the earth, her torch burning through the darkness, her heart heavy with sorrow. She sought her daughter in every corner of the world, from the highest mountains to the deepest valleys, but Persephone was nowhere to be found. Her grief grew wild, her despair a tempest that shook the heavens. The gods, seeing the devastation, urged her to relent, but Demeter refused. "Until my daughter is returned," she vowed, "the earth shall bear no fruit." At last Helios, the all-seeing sun god, revealed the truth. Hades had taken Persephone to the underworld to be his queen. Demeter's rage was a fire that scorched the sky. She stormed to Olympus, her voice a thunderclap that rattled the gods. "Return my daughter," she demanded of Zeus, "or the world shall know only winter." Zeus, torn between his brother Hades and the plight of the earth, hesitated. But as the cries of starving mortals reached his ears, he relented, sending Hermes, the messenger god, to retrieve Persephone from the underworld. The seeds of compromise. In the underworld, Persephone sat beside Hades, her heart heavy with longing for the world above. Hades, though stern, was not without kindness. He had offered her a throne, a kingdom, and his love, but Persephone's thoughts were of the sun, the fields, and her mother's embrace. When Hermes arrived with Zeus's command, Hades acquiesced, but not before offering Persephone a final gift, a pomegranate, its ruby seeds glistening like jewels. Persephone, hungry after her time in the underworld, ate 6 seeds before ascending to the world above. But the seeds were a binding force, a pact with the underworld that could not be undone. When she emerged into the light, Demeter's joy was a sunrise that banished the shadows. The earth bloomed anew, flowers bursting forth, rivers flowing once more. But the joy was tempered by the truth. Persephone had eaten the fruit of the underworld and must return to Hades for 6 months each year. Thus, the cycle of the seasons was born. When Persephone walks the earth, Demeter's happiness brings spring and summer, a time of growth and abundance. When she descends to the underworld, Demeter's sorrow cloaks the world in autumn and winter, a time of rest and reflection. It is a tale of balance, of light and dark, of love and loss, a reminder that even in the depths of despair, there is hope for renewal, the legacy of the harvest goddess. Demeter's story did not end with the seasons. It became a cornerstone of Greek belief, a myth that spoke to the deepest rhythms of life. The Eleusinian mysteries, sacred rites held in her honor, promised initiates a glimpse of the divine and the hope of rebirth. Her temples, adorned with sheaves of wheat and images of the earth's bounty, stood as symbols of her enduring power. She was a goddess who taught humanity the value of the harvest, the importance of nurturing the land, and the strength of a mother's love. As you drift closer to sleep, let your mind wander through the myths of Demeter. Imagine the fields of golden grain, the laughter of a mother and daughter, and the quiet promise of spring's return. Demeter was not just a goddess of the harvest, she was a symbol of resilience, a whisper of hope in the face of loss. But the story does not end here. What new wonders will emerge from the myths of the gods? What other tales will shape the chapters yet to come? Rest now, and let the whispers of the past guide you into dreams of the future. Baldur, the god of light and purity. Imagine a realm where the sun never truly sets, where the air is crisp with the scent of pine, and where the gods themselves walk among the towering trees and shimmering lakes. This is Asgard, the home of the Norse gods, a place of splendor and strength. Among its divine inhabitants, one god shone brighter than all others, Baldur, the god of light, purity, and beauty. His story is one of joy and sorrow, of love and loss, a tale that whispers of the fragility of life and the inevitability of fate. As we reach the final chapter of our journey through the myths of the gods, let us explore the story of Baldur, a god whose light touched the hearts of all who knew him. What made Baldur so beloved, and how did his fate shape the destiny of the gods, the shining god of Asgard? Baldur was the son of Odin, the All-Father, and Frigg, the queen of the gods. From the moment of his birth, he was a beacon of light in a world often shadowed by conflict. His hair was golden, like the sun's rays, his eyes as blue as the clearest sky, and his smile a warmth that melted even the coldest hearts. He was not a warrior like Thor or a trickster like Loki. He was a god of peace, of kindness, of the gentle strength that binds the world together. His presence brought harmony to Asgard, and his laughter was a melody that echoed through the halls of the gods. But Baldur was not just a figure of beauty, he was a symbol of hope, a promise that even in the harshest winters, spring would return. The gods adored him, the mortals revered him, and all of creation seemed to bask in his glow. Yet beneath this veneer of perfection, a shadow loomed, a prophecy that foretold Baldur's death, a fate that would plunge the world into darkness. How could such a beloved god be destined for tragedy? And what could be done to prevent it? The dreams of doom. As Baldur grew, he began to have troubling dreams, visions of his own death, of a world plunged into sorrow. These dreams haunted him, their weight pressing upon his heart like a stone. Frigg, his mother, sensed his distress and, in her love, sought to protect him. She traveled the world, extracting oaths from every living thing, trees, stones, animals, and even the elements themselves, promising that they would never harm her son. All swore the oath, save for one small plant, the mistletoe, which Frigg deemed too young and insignificant to pose a threat. With these oaths in place, Baldur became invulnerable, a god who could not be harmed. The gods, in their joy, made a game of it, throwing spears, shooting arrows, and hurling stones at Baldur, only to watch them bounce harmlessly away. Laughter filled Asgard, the gods reveling in their beloved Baldur's newfound immortality. But in the shadows, Loki, the trickster god, watched with envy and malice. What plan was brewing in his cunning mind? And how would the mistletoe, that tiny plant, become the instrument of fate? The fateful arrow. Loki, ever the schemer, discovered Frigg's oversight. He fashioned a dart from the mistletoe and approached Hoder, Baldur's blind brother, who stood apart from the revelry. "Why do you not join the game?" Loki asked, his voice smooth as silk. "Here, take this dart and throw it at Baldur. It will be a jest, a harmless prank." Trusting Loki's words, Hoder took the dart and hurled it with all his might. The dart struck Baldur in the heart, and the god of light fell, his life extinguished in an instant. The world stood still. The gods' laughter turned to wails of despair, their joy shattered like glass. Frigg's grief was a storm that swept through Asgard, her tears a rain that refused to cease. The gods, in their anguish, placed Baldur's body on his ship, Hringhorni, and set it ablaze, sending him to the underworld in a funeral pyre worthy of a god. But even in death, Baldur's light was not forgotten. His wife, Nanna, overcome with sorrow, threw herself onto the pyre, her heart unable to bear the loss. A journey to the underworld. In the depths of hell, the realm of the dead, Baldur and Nanna found peace, their spirits reunited in the quiet halls of the underworld. But the gods were not content to let their beloved Baldur remain in shadow. Hermodr, the swift messenger, rode to hell on Odin's steed, Sleipnir, to plead for Baldur's return. Hel, the goddess of the dead, agreed. If every living thing in the world wept for Baldur, she would release him. The gods sent messengers across the realms, and all of creation wept, trees, stones, animals, and gods alike. But one giantess, Thok, believed to be Loki in disguise, refused to shed a tear. "Let Hel keep what she has," she sneered. And so, Baldur remained in the underworlds, his light dimmed but not extinguished. It was a moment of heartbreak, a reminder that even the gods are bound by fate. The legacy of the light. Baldur's story did not end with his death. It became a symbol of hope, of the promise that light would return even after the darkest night. His tale was a whisper of Ragnarok, the end of days, when the world would be reborn from its ashes. In the myths, Baldur's return is foretold, a god who would rise again, bringing with him a new age of peace and purity. As you drift closer to sleep, let your mind wander through the myths of Baldur. Imagine the golden halls of Asgard, the laughter of the gods, and the quiet promise of light's return. Baldur was not just a god of beauty, he was a symbol of resilience, a whisper of hope in the face of fate. Farewell and good night, and so, dear listener, our journey through the myths of the gods comes to a close. From the stormy seas of Poseidon to the golden fields of Demeter, from the icy halls of Tyr to the radiant light of Baldur, we have wandered through the tales that shaped the world. These stories are not just echoes of the past, they are whispers of the human heart, reminders of the courage, love, and hope that dwell within us all. As you close your eyes and drift into sleep, let the myths linger in your dreams, a gentle lullaby from the gods. Thank you for joining us on this enchanting journey. May your nights be peaceful and your dreams filled with the light of Baldur's promise. Good night.